Okay, this is a look at Espresso Rec at a very high level. In the documents or my documents of your computer, in the Espresso Rec folder, there's some files here. One of them is the Espresso demo. And a quick look at that. Let's have a quick overview of Espresso Rec. One of its features is it does reconciliations. And basically you have some data you put on the left-hand side, and then data you put on the right-hand side. Two versions of the same sort. This is your ledger, say, on the left, and then on the right you have, say, the bank or your supplier. And lots of items, they won't exactly be the same. So you click the reconcile according to selections button, and very quickly it will produce a reconciliation. This is the items that don't match on the unreconciled item sheet, and it gives you a left folio number, which is the row number if you leave that column blank on the first sheet. And on the right hand side you have the items that did reconcile together. And again, there's a bit of a, this time they have also a rec number, which gives you a bit of an audit trail as to which items matched with which. What this is saying now is any particular column header you double click will sort data ascending or descending alternatively. On this particular sheet, the reconciled item sheet, double clicking the item will kind of give you the audit trail jump out at you as a little report as well. Okay, this is back on the main sheet. You can do reconcile by totals. So for instance, if you've written a check out and that check has you've made a mistake and you re-enter it in your books with the extra 9 pence, the famous transposition, the bank will have got the answer right first time, and by clicking this use total thing, it'll add all the items with a certain reference up on one side and all the items with a certain reference up on the other side. It doesn't have to be just two, only several of them, and it'll see if that matches, if that balances in total. So these 324s here are adding up to 11, and all these 324s here are adding up to 11. So using the total button, they'll match up together. There's a date function feature. If you have checks, and you need to use some sort of data to help you reconcile these items, because the books look a bit like this. A lot of rent checks and things go out with the same amount every week, time in, time out. So just using the amounts is a bit awkward. But if you put a check in the bank on the first of the month, you don't expect to see it turn up in the bank statement of the first of the month, which is what would happen if you did a reconciliation here. It'll match those two checks together. The date matrix thing on this other sheet to the left allows you to sort of say, well, you saw the pattern there, let's go across a few days, let's go to that sheet. On this one, it's items, it says okay, there's priority number 1 here. Look at checks that are between 3 and 365 days before you look at anything else. And so it will match the first one off with the one on the 4th. Instead of just having the references, my references is like this column B and column H, check numbers or invoice numbers. If your books say 000326, but something else says CHQ 000326, then they normally won't match together. But you can sort of do that here by, so for instance, this 000330 matched with this one because I said, okay, have a look inside this sort of mnemonic is this less than or equal to is, this is the amount, the reference number here. Let's see if you can see that amount inside any of the items here rather than just being the exact amount. So that's what that does. This allocation sheet is very useful. What it does is it says, okay, somebody sends you a check for a certain amount, but they don't tell you what that check is made up of, what invoices and credit notes and part payments it's made up of. So what you do is you type that amount into cell C1 and you paste in your ledger in this area here, and you click the button to find the first solution. And what Espresso Rec will do for you very, very quickly, it'll work through all the combinations. 1 can make 6, or 2 can make 6. There's a find next button to find different permutations, technically speaking, of these items that can add up to the amount you're after. And, there's something up here that says, okay, this is you can type in a number of how many positive numbers you might be looking for, and then you can say whether you want to look around that to find the nearest thing, or if you want to increase and then stop to the maximum, or start a large number and decrease to a small number. So for instance, if you were to type 1 here and then select increase to the maximum, then stop, then it'll find the smallest number of checks, or smallest number of invoices that add up to this amount on this side. So it's got the little extra sort of features to help you choose, and the sensitivity value. Do you want it exact penny, or 10 pence, or a pound? And do you want that sort of plus or minus, or only above or only below? So little features like that. Control E opens up the proper full espresso rec, and on this sheet here to the left of the espresso rec is a very high-speed VLOOKUP. So for instance, it's a 2-column lookup table. So if you normally have on your workbook, say, a multiple column lookup table, then you just take the index and you could just copy the 2 columns you're interested in, the index column, and instead of going across 20 places, you just kind of pick that 20th column out and paste it into column B. So for instance here, you should type in here, you sort of paste in the list of items that you want to be looked up, and then you just click the button and it will find 12 for you. Why is that so special? Well, it is special because if you had a million items that you want to be looked up, and you had a table that was a million items, it'll do the whole lot in about 30 seconds for you, saving you lots and lots of time. When you have very large VLOOKUPs, but small VLOOKUPs, not necessary. It's for the very large ones. It's very useful to you. Now the other thing is, sometimes your data doesn't come in nice lists. So for instance, if you had, let's give you sometimes your data comes in very often in tables. So you have some numbers here. Might have rows and columns in the middle of it, and then you have another set of data you're trying to reconcile to. Which may or may not have those missing rows. Might be in a different order. And your job is to reconcile these 2 sets of data. What you do then is you highlight that data and click Control-Shift-K. And this turns the data into a list for you, and it gives you the address of the original item. Control-Shift-K again. And then you can paste both of these lists into Espresso Rec and reconcile the items. And so it does that kind of thing for you. And what else does Espresso Rec do that's very clever? Just looking at this address column for a moment. If you wanted to have a unique list of this address column, you can do Control-Shift-N. I'll give you a unique list. Sit down for a second. Even if there are kind of spaces in the bottom, it will do the whole list. Now, the general idea is, imagine that was, say, for instance, and they'll do it a lot quicker than the normal filter or unique filter they have in Excel, or even a pivot table. So, but imagine, say, for instance, this address column was name 1, very badly spelled. Name 2. some John Smiths here. Here's some John Joneses. What you can do with Espresso Rec is you can, as long as you just highlight those two columns, Control Shift K again, Control Shift N again, do you a cross sort of unique list of these two things together. So one John Jones and one John Smith. We'll do that across thousands of columns and millions of rows, or million rows in a few seconds. Again, a lot faster than the tables will do for you. If you go into, if you want to, say for instance, go to the bottom of this column. This row here has got gaps in, and with these million row database, virtually a database nowadays, with these million row spreadsheets that we have nowadays, hopping down here, try and find the bottom of this row, this column, is can be hard work. There's lots of gaps in it, and you don't have the spare space to kind of hop down, go to the bottom, and then come up again, because you might have 16,000 columns. All you have to do in Espresso Rec is Control Shift J, go to the bottom of the column, and move to the top again for a second. If you do Control J, it'll highlight that range for you. So for instance, if you were to do a formula equals, and you want to copy that down, you do Control C, and then highlight over to column D, and then you do Control J, and Control J will find the bottom of all those rows it highlighted. Whatever's the lowest one, it'll go and find for you. So for instance, if there was another little item down here, we did Control J, we'd go down to this one here, which may or may not be what you're after. And there's functions in Espresso Rec to do that for across the columns and things like that. It'll also, let me have a look, open up the short key list in this folder as well. Control E opens Espresso Rec. The Control J we just looked at, and Control Shift J helps you go to the bottom. You can do the same thing for rows using different keys, and areas using different keys. This file lister here gives you the list of all the files you've been in Espresso Rec since you've installed Espresso Rec. Control W is very useful. It gives you a Control W. It gives you a kind of an input box that usually gives you this is just a file I've opened in the middle of nowhere, but normally it gives you the full path of the file that you're in, that's active, and then you can sort of copy paste that into a link or an email very quickly instead of sort of writing out the whole name of the folder and the file path with it. Hopping back into this again, Control Shift D will change the directory of the Excel into the directory of the current file that's open. So when you have several files open in different folders, instead of you hopping around into different ones every time you're looking at the kind of related files in the same folder, just Control Shift D will instantly have you in the same folder as the active file, so it switches that around a lot. Control Shift I does nice things like, so for instance here, if I do Control Shift I, changes this pointer to the cursor to a point, and at that point you can double click and we'll put a filter on for you, because that was a unique list. It doesn't show us very much, so let's go to one I copied down before. If I double click on John, it'll show me all the Johns. If I do a right click, it'll do a negative filter. Double click the top, get rid of it, but it'll still remain active until I do Control Shift I to switch the auto filter. Double click facility off because it's a toggle. As Control Shift K we've seen, this amalgamates, when you have concatenations, which can be very awkward to do if you have 30 columns you're trying to concatenate. Control Shift M will do that for you very nicely. There's your Control Shift N unique generator. Text to columns, a few other bits and pieces. Text to columns is quite nice. And so for instance you have some numbers here. And if you just do Control T, they all become text, and Control T, they all become whatever you're highlighting will swap between text and numbers, which you reports from databases or particular business objects reports. It's a useful feature to have. And that's a basic overall summary of EspressoRec, and these features are designed for to save you, hours and hours and hours in terms of getting your job done every day, week, and month.